Okay, welcome to the Edge, the cheerful voice of the Augi at the Edge, AUGI at the Edge. I've talked about my show to people every so often, but I really have to talk about another show tonight that I heard about in pieces and so forth. Then I managed to watch a very famous person from a network that claims to be independent of the world, but really not, that has no political aspirations, but really not. But not only that, but goes visiting to another country and compares the United States to that country. The country is Hungary, and the recently elected Orban, who I think was elected two or three other times, but each time he managed to re-elect himself. Interesting. And the proposal that Mr. Tucker Carlson looks in the mirror and sees nothing but beauty, um, says is that Hungary is a wonderful country, and America is something to be beware of. That you're not free to speak your mind in the United States. Well, he certainly spoke his, and he speaks it no differently when he goes to Hungary, and it's rebroadcast here. That he's free of the internet over there because it's shut down, so people can't talk to one another in Hungary. Uh, Gee, what's that all about? A free country that Orban is stifling dissent, arresting people, jailing people for speaking their mind. So what does Tucker go about saying? You're not free to speak your mind in this country, in the United States, and they'll censor you and they'll jail you for speaking your mind. He doesn't cite any examples, but he makes that statement because that is exactly what they're doing in Hungary. And the rioting is huge and repeated rioting because he won't leave the office he lost the election to. They have a parliamentary system. Nonetheless, he stays, and he stays. I think they had that problem here recently, and maybe that's what has Tucker confused. Somebody who didn't want to leave the office and nearly overthrew the government with an organized riot and got a few people killed along the way, including people who felt guilty for not having failed and committed suicide. I think 4 or 5 people have committed suicide were in the Capitol Police on the January 6th riot. It's in America that I didn't recognize that Mr. Tucker Carlson was talking about. Gee, it's just hilarious to think that America is a better country than Hungary. How could it be? You have all these freedoms to go to jail for saying what you're not supposed to say. Oh, for not being able to riot in the streets. Oh, those are only for black people, BLM, Black Lives Matter people. Those are the only rioters. There was no rioters on January 6th at the Capitol building, none at all, right? And oh, God, there's one person, what was her name? She broke through the window and she got shot by the Capitol Police. The only bullet that was ever fired by the Capitol Police, and she died. But here's Tucker in another country, Hungary, a landlocked country, as he mentions, uh, freer than the United States, but people go to jail anyway for rioting, for protesting, conducting the Fourth Amendment rights. First Amendment is the free speech. Second is have a gun. Third is freedom of assembly. And the fourth is freedom from search and seizure is the third. And free, I get those two, third and fourth mixed up. Freedom of assembly, which is like the First Amendment, but it's more specific to large groups protesting. Nonetheless, Mr. Tucker Carlson is bragging about how much better Hungary is. I think he's probably planning to move there with the hope of having a premiership of some kind or some kind of government job waiting for him for being so loyal to their illegal president by some measure. But I'm not going to say a whole lot more. I'm not enough familiar with. I need to look into why a non-democratic country is somehow better than a democratic country, unless it is, of course, because you really don't want America to be a country of free speech, and you only want to be the only voice for the American people. Of course, maybe that's the problem. Maybe Tucker Carlson thinks he is the only voice for America. Gosh, he does admire the former president who thought he was the only voice for America. He's the only political part of his Republican Party that lost the election. All the rest of the people running in the Republican Party won, most of them, not all of them, but most of them. They did lose the majorities, but they were already way down in the majority. They won seats in this general election that Trump lost in. So people were selectively eliminating Trump from winning in the last election, including Republican women. But here we have Tucker Carlson running overseas, congratulating the people of a free republic that has no freedom. That's pretty amazing. It's a joy to watch, and it's hilarious to watch an American say, I love America. I will never leave it. How could I leave? I have 4 children and 4 dogs. How would that happen? Ha 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 ha. Oh gosh. Well, I still want my job back in good old Fox. Frequently oxymoronic xenophobia is another name for it, but that's my opinion. Thank you. And subscribe if you will. We'll speak more to those things. We can speak fairly well, but Tucker makes it really easy. Thank you.